Hi, greetings from the Pacific Northwest. Bo here. I'm here to do a video on the blues. I recently did a video on what I consider to be cheap psychedelic starter. This isn't necessarily cheap starter stuff. There's some stuff in here that's easy to find. Some of it's not as easy to find. What motivated me to do this is that Zach, the Zeke Vinyl Geek, first he started out on Instagram just showing a lot of his blues records, and then he actually even did a video, and I was kind of culling some records and mulling around some ideas, and then he did a video. So I don't know if this is like an addendum to that or to answer or what it is, but this is just my take on blues albums that I find interesting. We'll start with this one. This one is not hard to find. You see this one all over the place. This is the Butterfield Blues Band, East West. It's on Electro. This is a mono copy. It's got, of course, it's got Elvin Bishop and Mike Bloomfield playing on this record. This record kind of appeals to psychedelic collectors as well, because it does combine both some blues and a lot of blues. And these guys were a Chicago blues band. And some psychedelic, some Eastern tinges, some Indian type feel, East-West, hence the title East-West. This is my favorite record they do. Their first one's pretty decent too. They're pretty good out through Pig Boy Crabshaw, and then I kind of lose interest. In fact, I lose a little bit of interest in them after this album, but seriously. This one's always cheap. It's easy to find. This one is not cheap or easy to find, but this is Black Murda. This is on Chess as well. These guys are kind of like if Jimi Hendrix met Arthur Lee, met soul music. They started off as, and I don't remember who they played for, but they were the backup band for a fairly well-known Motown type artist, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe I don't do research, guys. I just go by what I remember, what I know. And in fact, they were going to call themselves Black Murder, and they ended up making it more kind of street sounding with Murda. And this is really good. This is a solid record. This is a promo. The funny thing is, this is a super hard record to find. I didn't spend this much on it, but it was this particular copy was for sale at a thrift store down the street from my house for 25 cents. And Rainy Day Records bought it, and then I bought it from them for $20 because it's not in the best condition. It's got a split on the seam and stuff. But there's another copy, a nicer copy for sale. There's a record store, and this is a small little logging town for sale for $100. So. Two copies of a hard to find record in this small town. Now let's move on. This is an original. This is Bo Diddley on Checker Records. And Bo Diddley, Bo Diddley actually had kind of a fascination with westerns too, because one of his albums is called "Have Guitar Will Travel," and it's got the card like Paladin used to carry, and it's got he's got another one that's where Bo Diddley is a gunslinger. Which there, now you can see it, although the light's kind of reflecting on it. But Bo Diddley, it's good stuff. Elias McDaniel, as it were. Great guitar. R&B kind of soul stuff too, but mostly blues. This one's an artist who's really hard to find. And this is the only Lightning Hopkins I have. And Brett at the Allen Post Office, he's a carrier if you're out there. He gave me this record. It was from his mom's collection. Thank you very much. I doubt he watches my videos, but he's a mail carrier I used to work with. This dog looks a lot like a Lulu. That's another plus in its background. But you just don't see. That's the thing about blues records. Collecting them out here in the Northwest, they're hard to find. You don't run across them. And this is on United. So back in the late '60s, they kind of had a run with some B.B. King records that I have a few of. Mostly on United artists. They were reproducing. So a lot of these, we'll talk about that in a bit, but we'll get to that later. Lightning Hopkins, good blues stuff. This isn't such a great blues album, but it's kind of an anomaly. And don't spend more than $5 or $10 on this, because this really isn't very good. But this is Sky Saxon Blues Band, otherwise aka the Seeds, a spoonful of Seed blues. What's great about this is the liner notes are written by Muddy Waters. He calls them another Rolling Stones. We all know how that worked out, but anyhow. So don't spend a lot on this. This is not a very good record in my estimation, but it's an anomaly that's worth picking up. This one kind of bounces back and forth between like kind of hard rock and blues, but you know, when you've got Jack Bruce and Leslie West, you know, you're going to get some pretty heavy blues influence. This is Why Don't Ya, which is a really good record. Yeah, this one does have a blues influence. This has got Ry Cooder playing on it. Some fantastic blues guitar. This melds kind of, anything after this gets a little kind of odd, but this first record from Captain Beefheart, Safe as Milk, has enough blues influence in it that really, and this is an original on Buddha. This is another record that you don't want to spend too much for. You can find a pretty good copy of this for $30 to $50, which does, maybe that sounds like a lot, but for what it is, you know, that's not a lot of money. Don't overspend on this record, but it's a nice mix of that strangeness that they incorporate later on that really takes over, and good blues. This is a really good record. Highly recommend it. Yeah, okay, this is a psychedelic band, yes, but the Doors were highly influenced by the blues, by Willie Dixon, by Muddy Waters, Butterfield Blues Band. They all talk about how they love the Butterfield Blues Band. All you gotta do is like listen to Soul Kitchen. You can hear that influence. And then there is a Willie Dixon song on here, Backdoor Man. The blues were a big part of the Doors. They got away from that for a while, and then on Morrison Hotel and LA Woman, they kind of come back and they've really embraced their blues roots, as it were. So there's a mono copy. That's pretty cool. It's another one that's not super easy to find. This is on Rare Earth. This is I think Dave Edmunds was in this band. Yeah, Dave Edmunds. This is Love Sculpture, Blues Helping, kind of blues hard rock. It's a pretty good record. When you think about the blues, you don't necessarily think about Ike and Tina Turner, but this record is The Hunter on Blue Thumb, and this is a cool record. I like Ike and Tina anyhow because I do like R&B and soul, but this one's got a heavy blues influence. I recommend that one a lot. Okay, so we were talking earlier a little bit about blues influence and how it was bands like the Stones and the Beatles, primarily the Yardbirds, the Animals, that were looking back. They were influenced by all these old blues records, and they were doing a lot of blues covers, mostly because of, well, Keith and Mick were big into the blues, but Brian Jones, I mean, that's the name of the band, the Rolling Stones, that's a Muddy Waters song. I mean, these guys are covering Willie Dixon on here. They're covering Ellis McDaniels, which is Bo Diddley. They're covering, well, Chuck Berry is on here that they cover. So, you know, they like their old R&B. They like their old blues, soul music. And early Stones, to me, are my favorite era Stones. The less Brian has to do with the Rolling Stones, the less interest I actually have in the band. But in particular, their early stuff really speaks to me. Nina Simone, known more for being a jazz musician. This is Nina Sings the Blues, and this has got House of the Rising Sun on it. She also did, not on here, but Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, which to me has a blues feel to it. Eric Burdon and the Animals covered both of those. Not that she didn't write House of the Rising Sun. I don't really think anybody really knows. There's speculation, or people say so-and-so wrote it, but it's such an old song. That's why they arranged it, because the Animals did, because you could get the rights to it pretty easy. This is not the original. This is a 1969 reissue of the 5 Live Yardbirds, which is still a nice record to have. It's not like the 63 or 64 press, but this is a 69 press. Very cool, especially to find it here. Hard to do. But Eric Clapton, you know, famously he leaves the Yardbirds after For Your Love because he feels it's going in too much of a pop vein, and he wants to stick in more of a blues vein, and we'll get to that in a second here. But and I say this all the time. People that watch my videos know that, to me, the most blues wailing Yardbird was Keith Relf, that harmonica, man. Where would you be without harmonica? So Clapton leaves and he goes to John Mayall's Blues Breakers because he wants to stick in those traditional blues. veins. He sticks with Mayall for one record, and then he's off. And he has one project before Cream, I think. I used to have a comp that was a Lovin' Spoonful record that it was dubbed as, but it had his side project and a couple other anomalies on there. It's a couple of Butterfield Blues Band singles, I think. I can't remember what it was called for the life of me. And anyhow, so when he leaves, he's replaced by Peter Green. And we know Peter Green is an excellent blues guitar player. So he's with these guys with Mayall for a record, and then he goes on to Fleetwood Mac. It's all tying together at this point. And I actually have a comp that I actually prefer because it's got a little bit more of the more experimental, a little bit more of the psychedelic style material. But these blues numbers that Fleetwood Mac did too are fantastic. And where would we be? Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix is a blues guitarist. It's heavy, it's hard and heavy and loud, but it's a blues guitarist. And in fact, not Voodoo Child's Slight Return, but Voodoo Child off this, where he's got all the guest musicians, to include Steve Winwood playing on the organ. This is a fantastic record. Jimi Hendrix, killing the blues. So after all these British Invasion artists kind of restarted up the blues, this is how I have a lot of my blues collection. On these reprocessed old chests. These are like early mid 60s reissues of these records from the late 50s, early 60s. And this is John Lee Hooker's House of the Blues. A lot of them are pasted improperly, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so John Lee Hooker, Albert King on Stax. This is not a reissue, but you know, he's just Front Under a Bad Sign. This is really hard and heavy too. I highly recommend this record. This is a gift from Jerry Shemp. So Jerry, if you're still out there watching my videos, thanks for this, man. I really appreciate that. Another one. Then the last two guys are kind of the king of the blues. I don't go as far back. I'm not as much into that early stuff, like Robert Johnson and stuff like that. But that checker era, the 50s, is where I start to gain my interest in the blues. And this is Muddy Waters, the real folk blues, which has, of course, it has Mannish Boy on it. But again, it's one of these early mid-60s reissues from Chess Checker. And then, of course, the piece de resistance of my blues collection of my favorite blues record. This is another one of those early reissues from early mid-60s. This is originals. Let's Go for Crazy. This wasn't even cheap. But Howlin' Wolf, which has Spoonful, which is a Willie Dixon song, but to me that's Backdoor Man, which is later covered by The Doors, Red Rooster, which is later covered by the Rolling Stones, and on and on and on. Howlin' Wolf may have been the most covered artist out of the lot. I don't know that to be fact, folks. That's just a speculation statement. Anyhow, just showing some of my favorite blues albums from my collection. I want to thank Zach for showing what he had. It really inspired me. And gonna have on the other channel, gonna have a video coming up soon about some finds that we had. That we just went to some local stores in Seattle and Olympia, and over the weekend, and didn't spend a lot because we're budget shoppers. But there's some decent stuff in there, some cool finds. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.